Welcome to this episode of the Founders Fireside Podcast. Today we have a special guest, Brian Rosen, who is the founder and CEO of Evervive, the energy hydration beverage that's going to take over. Brian, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So, my first question for you is what made you want to start Evervive? Because it is not normal to start a beverage company, especially as a founder in college. So, how did you land on starting Evervive?
Sure. Actually, I'm going to take you back all the way to high school. I founded Evervive when I was a junior in high school in Dallas. It was right after COVID. During the pandemic, I went through a health journey where I lost 60 pounds. And I was there, there was a lot of products and services that helped me along the way. But one thing that I found myself needing was caffeine, was some energy. It's hard going through that journey, staying motivated, staying energized. Your body's kind of doing everything to fight against you in that process. And I looked at the energy drink market, and I didn't really see anything I liked. Nothing really met my health goals. Found out this was a problem that thousands of active lifestyle students and young professionals were facing. At the same time, I was going through a business class at my high school where the culmination of it was come up with a business idea on paper, kind of develop it throughout the year, and pitch it at the end of the year in a Shark Tank style pitch competition. I wound up winning that competition, securing a little bit of funding. I tapped into my network, saw who I knew in the beverage industry, asked them for some help, and now, about 2.5 years later, we finally have Evervive.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, so you secured some funding in high school, tapped into your network. Tell me about the actual creation of Evervive and working with the manufacturer.
Sure. So, first thing that I needed to do, knowing nothing about the energy drink industry at all, was find some people who knew what they were doing. So luckily, I knew a couple of people just in beverages who were able to connect me to some people who knew more about energy drinks. They connected me to my formulator. So I kind of had a little bit of an idea of what I wanted in the drink. I got a little bit lucky since it was around COVID time or right after COVID. A lot of the trade shows were still online, particularly one supply side where all these vendors for ingredients go to. They had their entire vendor list online in a database. So I was able to kind of scroll through there to see if there was anything interesting in there that I liked. Found some interesting ingredients. Went to my formulator, say, hey, I want to make a better for you energy drink. I want it to have hydration in it. I want to have these ingredients. I want to have these ingredients. They were able to come up with a more complete formula for me. From there, we did some sampling, took it to manufacture, where I also got lucky because my formulator connected us with our manufacturer, who was willing to do small runs. The hardest thing in the beverage industry, especially, well, really any beverage, but also energy drinks as well, is finding people who are really or who are willing to produce these things in small quantities. Because with scale comes more margin for these people. So it's really kind of a rarity, especially now, to find people who are willing to do this in small quantities. So partner with the manufacturer. We did our initial run of 7,000 cans, shipped those to Bloomington. Those were a massive hit. Now we're going from an 8.4 ounce can to a 12-ounce can, and we're going to produce 15,000 of those hopefully by August.
Okay, sweet. So, looking through the ingredients on the can, it's it's much better ingredients than like a Monster or Red Bull or whatever. So, can you tell me like some more specifics about the ingredients in the can?
Sure. I'm going to tell you a little bit of the inside scoop on what makes us different from any other energy drink. And that is when you drink Evervive, you don't get jitters. You don't get the shakes that you do from other energy drinks. So what we do is we combine a couple of ingredients. In our caffeine, we use natural caffeine, which has inhibitors in it that slow the release of it over time. So if you think about a Monster or a Red Bull, they use synthetic caffeine. That caffeine hits you all at once. And from there, there's nothing in there to slow it down. So you get that caffeine spike immediately to the crash. We smooth it out over a period of time, which also reduces the jitters. We also use a natural calming agent, L-theanine, and also in our caffeine in this version of Evervive, we use something called guayusa, which has antioxidants in it that reduce caffeine jitters. Pair that with hydration elements as well, potassium and sodium. Caffeine is naturally dehydrating, so we add that hydration aspect back in the drink. So that's what makes us really special, and that's what makes our ingredients really special, is we do the most to reduce caffeine jitters and make sure that you have great mental focus over a long period of time drinking our beverage.
Right. Okay, that's really important and very true on like the Red Bull side of things. You get that huge spike, but then you just crash, and it doesn't give you like the long lasting energy throughout the day. So I'm just gonna open mine up real quick.
I know I've already gone through mine this morning.
Mm. This is actually my first time trying the blackberry lemonade, and it's very good.
Well, thank you.
Of course, of course. So tell me about the change from the smaller to the bigger can. Why why did you make that decision to go with a bigger can?
It was a combination of things. So, firstly, we got a lot of consumer feedback on Evervive on the smaller cans, and we really took it to heart. What did consumers like? What did they not like? One thing that they didn't like about Evervive, a lot of consumers, some liked it, some didn't, but the majority didn't, was because we're a smaller can, which means we have to make that 200 milligrams of caffeine more concentrated in that size. And since we use natural caffeine, which is green tea based, it has a little bit of a taste to it. They some people found our drink a little bit bitter or had a bad aftertaste. Um, so that was problem number one. Problem number two is when we went into retailers and we finally got Evervive on the shelves, you stick an 8.4 ounce can next to a whole bunch of 12-ounce cans on the shelf, and it kind of blends in, especially in the coolers where how the trays are, is it kind of cuts the drink off to about halfway, so people couldn't even see our label all that well. So that was another problem we faced, and then the third problem is just in general, and this is where my initial thesis of consumers are going to equate more value with more caffeine in a smaller can would just prove to be incorrect. I should know I'm from Texas. Bigger, everything bigger is better. So people equate more value with larger volume. And that holds true for drinks as well. So a combination of those factors really made going to the 12 ounce make sense. We did do a trial of it. We got about a dozen cans. We went around to IU's campus, sampled them out a bunch, got some really positive feedback. And just the effect of diluting it down to a 12 ounce actually made the drink a little bit sweeter, which consumers really liked. So the change just overall made a lot of sense. It made a lot of sense from a manufacturing perspective, made a lot of sense from the retail perspective, and made a lot of sense from the consumer perspective as well.
Okay, sweet. That's pretty good that the feedback that you get from consumers is that they just want more of it.
Yeah.
So you mentioned going into retail. Tell me about getting in the first retail space and kind of how the deals are structured, and then going on to get into multiple retail spaces.
So the retail spaces that Evervive is in right now in Bloomington are mainly convenience stores. And it's one thing I love about Bloomington and Indiana is there's still a lot of independent convenience stores. If you go to Texas or Illinois or California, it's now all chains. It's all 7-Elevens, it's all marathons. And that means there's a lot more corporate control over the buying process. And those are the processes as a small brand. we don't love because they're very time consuming, they're very expensive to get into. That's when you start having to talk about using a broker or distributor, things that cost a lot of money, take out a lot of margin. So what we're able to do in Bloomington is go to a lot of these independent C-store guys, and I would just literally go into the store with like a case of the product. I'd be like, here's who I am. I'm a student at IU. This is the product. We'd love to partner with you guys on stocking it. And usually right then and there, right after the pitch, I'd get the yes or no. Um, Now, as we are growing, and that's basically how we did all our stores in Bloomington. As we're growing and we want to start getting into more grocery stores, we want to get into the Targets and Walmarts of the world. We're going to have to go through that buying process. So I'm right now learning a lot about how that works. Luckily, through IU Innovates, I've been connected with some people who have knowledge of the buying process, who are able to help me work through and navigate. That process. But right now, on the immediate horizon for Evervive, we're going to be putting a lot more focus into e-commerce. So Amazon, Walmart.com, as well as our own Shopify store. Really, we're just seeing, especially Gen Z consumers, buying a lot more online, even beverages, which I was surprised because shipping costs for beverages tend to be a lot higher than other products.
Yeah, yeah. So are you on Amazon yet?
Not yet, but once we get the 12-ounce cans, we're going to list them on Amazon.
Sweet. Okay, what about Shopify?
We are on Shopify. So we've had the Shopify store up and running. You can buy the 8.4-ounce cans right now at drinkevervive.com, and we'll also have the 12-ounce cans on there once they launch.
Sweet, sweet. Okay. So you made a good point about like shipping costs being high for beverages. Um, but you also mentioned that consumers are willing to pay for it, despite the higher shipping costs. So how much additional money is the shipping for like a case of Evervive?
It really depends. A lot of times shipping cost depends on distance. So for example, if I'm shipping from Bloomington to Chicago, that's, maybe about $11. If I'm shipping from Bloomington to Los Angeles, that's like $30. So it really depends. So right now, our penetration on the West Coast isn't all that great. Because when you start talking about $30 shipping costs, I have a friend actually in LA who loves Evervive, but he told me like, look, man, I love the drink, but right now it's just way too expensive for me to ship it on a regular basis. And I agreed with him. And it's something that just right now, as a small brand, it's something we have to contend with. Everything gets easier once you scale up a little bit more. But around the Midwest region and even southern into Texas, our shipping costs are a lot lower. But when what we've seen is when you're talking about, I'd say shipping costs up to $20, consumers are willing to pay, at least our consumers, who we target tend to we target more inelastic consumers, a little more of people who are willing to pay for the product if they like it. So we haven't seen that being a problem, but once you get up to $30 shipping charges, it just gets like you're basically paying for two of the product just to ship one of it. That's what the cost equivalent is. So it's something that we're working through right now. If we list on Amazon, partner with Amazon FBA, we're going to those shipping costs as we scale up will get a lot lower once we start going through their network as well, and their logistics network is way better than ours is right now. So we're doing a lot of things proactively to try to reduce shipping costs for consumers, but it's something we're aware about and it's something we're sensitive about as well.
Right. Okay. So you mentioned sort of, well, long term, you want to get into the Targets and the Walmarts of the world, but you got to build up to that with direct to consumer. So what does your marketing look like? And what's like the long-term marketing plan?
Sure. So right now we do a lot of social media based marketing. It's just gotten so easy and it works. So that's basically our primary marketing channel, in addition to word of mouth, which is also super powerful. We kind of have three lines of content, how I see it. So first is showcase, which is just Evervive out in the wild. We do some cool things with the cans, try to get some cool pictures of it. Our second is like athletic fitness content. We Evervive targets active people. People are on a run. People are going to the gym. I'm a runner myself. And I love drinking Evervive right before I go for a run. It just gives me the boost that I need to get out there. So those kind of content. And third is our influencers. So we partner with a lot of Chicago and Indiana-based fitness influencers, lifestyle influencers as well. We've had some really successful partnerships in the past, and we're looking forward to continuing them and expanding our influencer partnerships in the future. In terms of the future of Evervive marketing, that's how I see it really going. If you look at Celsius, Alani New, Prime, I mean, it's entirely influence based marketing. And a lot of these influencers are phenomenal to partner with, but you also have to find who is the best fit for your brand as well. For example, if you look at Prime, Logan Paul has had his moments as well that haven't been so great for that brand. So it's really about finding who's going to be the best face for your product, and also, you have to partner with someone who truly believes in the product, and will be genuine to their audience, because otherwise it just doesn't work.
Right. Being genuine is super important. You got to find people whose audience aligns with your demographic.
Absolutely, yeah, and you have to find people who are doing it because they believe in the product, whether if you're paying them or not. Um, if you're paying it's an ad bonus for them, but they still have to believe in the product, because just consumers nowadays are easily able to see through the BS.
True, true. So for the influencer deals that you're getting currently, are they paid a flat fee? Do they get an affiliate link, or are they doing it for free?
So a little bit of a combination. We have some influencers that have generously agreed to promote Evervive for free, to help a fellow Hoosier out, or because they really like the product. We've done I think we've done one paid in the past, and I think it was just a flat fee based on the number of content. Um, we are trying to get an affiliate program up and running, with some affiliate links. That's going to be in the future, but we're working on the back end of kind of doing brand ambassadorship slash affiliate program.
Okay, sweet. So in doing my research, oh, I was actually surprised how much ChatGPT knew about your brand. ChatGPT mentioned that you won $1,500 in a high school pitch competition. And then it also mentioned that you got in retail stores in Chicago and Dallas. Is that correct?
Chicago, Bloomington, and Dallas.
Chicago, Bloomington, and Dallas. So tell me about getting in stores in Chicago and Dallas.
So the store in Chicago, I was up in Chicago actually for to meet with our can supplier, and tour their facilities in Carroll Stream, Illinois, right outside of Chicago. And while I was in Chicago, I got intro to a bodega owner. We talked a little bit, and he agreed to stock some Evervive. In Dallas, the retailer actually, high school football stadium. So um, I was connected through my high school, kind of after the fact, once Evervive started growing. And they're now in my high school's football stadium, which is really cool. And how I see it is kind of the journey coming full circle. Because Evervive started because of my high school. I mean, probably without that initial $1,500, that was really the push to get me out of the door and really get this started. And it's really awesome for me to see it in my high school, to see it in my high school stadium. So that I think, out of all the retailers, I love all my retailers, but that was probably one of the most impactful for me.
Yeah, sweet. So my next question is also related to the retailers that are a little farther from Bloomington. Obviously, the retailers in Bloomington, shipping costs are super low because you ship the cans to Bloomington, so you just drop it off. But do the retailers pay like much more in shipping um, for Chicago and Dallas? And then how does that translate to the price that they sell it for?
So no. We just being a small brand and really needing the retail presence, we usually eat the shipping costs. So we take a little bit, of a hurt to the bottom line, but just getting exposure and getting out there, that's matters for to us a lot more right now. If you look at Celsius's journey, I think for like the first 5 years Celsius was in existence, they took a loss every single year. And that's just the nature of the industry. So we're okay taking a loss right now to get exposure and to get out there. And then once we've had our 5 years, that's when we're really going to show our returns.
Sweet. Okay. Of course, the price of the can goes down, you produce more, and then distribution prices go way lower. Um,
Absolutely. It's all about economies of scale.
totally. So I don't know if you're okay saying this on the podcast, but I'm curious about what your cost to produce is now, and then for the 15,000 cans, what the cost per can will be, and then what the cost will be long term when you're producing hundreds of thousands, if not millions.
So I think the cost for the 7,000 cans was like $1.20 per can. I don't remember off the top of my head what it's going to be for the 15,000 run. Also partially because just with tariffs and everything, we source ingredients from overseas. That's kind of there's been a lot of volatility in that pricing, so I just don't have that number off the top of my head. For what's going to be at scale is around 71, 77 cents per can.
Okay. And that's for the 12-ounce can.
That's going to be yes, yeah, that'll be for the 12-ounce can. It's spec'd for the 8.4 ounce can, but I don't think there's really much of a price this difference per can. It's just the price of the larger can, which is like 0.0001 cents, and then water.
Right. Okay. Um, I don't want to get too into the weeds on pricing, but I'm curious about sort of the price that you sell it to retailers for per can, and then what they charge, and then also like if retailers in Bloomington are charging different prices, or you kind of say charge this much.
So we wholesale around $2.35, and we retail for between $3.20 and $3.50. And that's our suggested. The retailers can retail it at whatever they want, and there's very little we can do about it because they're going to have their margin that they want to take on it, and they're going to set the price that they want it. We can only give a suggestion. In the cities, it's going to be a little bit more expensive just based on a larger city versus smaller town. But we see it around that suggested mark. We don't see too much outside of that.
All right. Okay. So you know a ton about the beverage industry. How does Arizona do it to where they just charge 99 cents?
Um, I don't. I've seen that. I've listened to a podcast about them before. I don't remember their full story off the top of my head. I think partially the 99 cents cans are a loss leader. I think it just goes back to their founding philosophy, where we this is how we started out, and we want to keep. It's like the Costco hot dog. Like the Costco hot dog will always be at like $1.50 or something like that, or $1.20. Um, I think it's a little bit same for the 99 cent can Arizonas. It helps that Arizona is also a friggin' massive company, and they can afford to do that now. But I think compared to their other product offerings, it stands out as unusual. Um, but yeah, if I had to guess, it's probably a loss leader for them, and something to kind of keep the brand there and kind of keep their core value still there.
Right. And obviously Arizonas are just packed with sugar and they don't have caffeine. The next thing that I want to ask you about is like brand identity. Like when you look at an Arizona, their brand identity is just it's cheap and super sugary. You look at a Red Bull, they have like some of the most wild marketing with extreme sports. Celsius is like pushing this certain lifestyle. So how do you see Evervive's brand identity? And then how does that translate to your marketing?
Well, first, we're a brand centered around health. Um, we don't use artificial flavors. We don't use artificial ingredients. We really center around health, and that's our number one commitment to consumers. Is we will create a product that is healthy. We will create an energy drink in an industry that's filled with a lot of artificial flavors. We'll create one that's healthy. So that really attracts a lot of active people, a lot of younger people, Gen Z, millennial. Um, and how I see kind of our brand identity and how it translates to our marketing is we like to be active. We're an active lifestyle brand. We're colorful. We use the gradients on our can. You don't see really any other energy drinks using that. So we're a fun drink. We're a drink you can grab, get down, go. Whether you're going for a run, a lift, you're pounding through work, study session. Um, as well, if you're about to go out for a night, you need a little caffeine boost. It's a great thing to use as well, especially as we're seeing a lot more Gen Z consumers switch away from alcohol. Who's gaining that market share? A lot of energy drinks. So we really see ourselves as a healthy replacement for energy drinks that were good for a long time, but now it's time for something healthy to take their place.
Okay, I like that. So my next question is not so Evervive specific, but ChatGPT also told me that you're a triple major. Is that true?
I am, at least for now.
Okay. And then you're also the VP of a business frat?
I am. Well, I
Okay,
was. My term ended, but I did external affairs for Epsilon Nu Tau at IU.
sweet. Okay. So my question is like time management. How do you balance three majors, a business frat, and being a full-time founder? Like your schedule just it must be insane.
Um, so I do it a couple ways. First thing is every Sunday, sit down, map out everything that needs to get done for the upcoming week. Really being diligent about what you have to get done and also your calendar. I definitely live and die by my calendar. It just keeps me on track. It keeps me organized. And sometimes seeing a completely filled calendar like might give people almost a sense of anxiety. I actually like it because if it's not like that and if there's something empty, it's like, what am I missing here? There's something that I'm not on top of. Another important part of that is making time for yourself, so still doing the things you enjoy, despite working and carving out time. You know, it's you can always find half an hour somewhere. I promise you, you can always do it. So for me, it's running. I really enjoy running. So if that means, I need to wake up a little bit earlier to go for a run, that's what I do. And some days it's easy, some days it's a little bit harder, but making sure you're making time for, keeping yourself active, keeping yourself healthy, your friends, the people who you love, making sure you keep that in your life despite, everything you have going on. It's just super important, just for yourself, keeping you centered, and then also for just your mental and physical health as well. So being super diligent about time management, still doing the things you love. That's how I kind of keep everything on track. But also I love what I do with Evervive. It's truly been an incredible journey. I love creating a physical good. I love working on Evervive, which also helps as well. What I tell a lot of first-time founders when they're coming out with their business idea, I said, you gotta do something you're super passionate about because there's going to be some days where you're going to wake up feeling amazing, and you're going to wake up some days feeling awful about it. And you gotta go through each day with the same enthusiasm that you did the day before. That's critical is you have to do something you're super passionate about, and I'm super passionate about Evervive. So that's how I keep everything on track and also kind of still making time for the things I like to do as well.
All right. Okay. I like that you mentioned like you got to do something that you just love. And some people I feel like are working on products like it's a software or whatever. Like maybe they might be passionate about it, but there are very few businesses that are as cool as an energy drink. Like this is sick. And you've got it in stores and it's real. You're building it. So we have this tradition on the podcast where the last guest asks the next guest a question. So Jordan Green, founder of Glacier Marketing, has got a question for you. He's curious, do you see yourself doing your business in 20 years? And if not, where do you see yourself?
So I don't view myself doing Evervive in 20 years, and here's why. Because the life cycle for a lot of energy drink brands, and if you see this with Alani or other beverage brands like Poppy, is you kind of have, your startup stage, you grow, and then the target for a lot of beverage brands is to be acquired by one of the big guys, Pepsi, Dr. Pepper, Keurig, those kinds of guys. Chances are of a beverage, being sustainable just on its own or going IPO, it's just very slim. It's just not typically how it works in this industry. So I actually view if I'm still doing Evervive in 20 years, probably as a bad sign, because that means we haven't hit the growth targets that we wanted to. And I could imagine, if Evervive lasts 20 years, and we do get acquired, they're probably going to bring in a more experienced management team, which is just sometimes how it goes. Um, and that's just the nature of how these businesses work. So I think that I'll probably be on to my next thing, whether it's in consumer packaged goods, whether it's in VC. Still not sure what my next move may or may not be. But for now, I'm working on Evervive. I absolutely love it, and I'm hoping to get ourselves to that scale where we do have that problem, and it's a good problem to have.
Right, right. Okay, so you're planning to exit.
Yes, that's the ultimate plan for Evervive.
Sweet, sweet. I could see you as a venture capitalist for sure. Like you can spot things and you have this ability to figure things out and solve problems, as all entrepreneurs try to do. Um, my last question for you is, what would you like to ask the next guest?
So I really like Jordan's question. I'm going to kind of steal it and modify it a little bit. Not where do you see yourselves in 20 years, but where do you see yourself both with your company and then also personally in the next 4 to 5 years?
Okay,
Kind
all
of
right,
what's next on the horizon for you?
sounds good. Where can people find Evervive? Where can people find you online?
So we are online at drinkevervive.com, all socials at drinkevervive, and you can also find our retail locations in Bloomington, Chicago, and Dallas on our website.
Sweet. All right, Brian, thanks a lot for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Jasper. Really appreciate it, man. Great
Yeah,
talking with you.
you too.